I handed her 4 passports, 4 things. So she looks at this, looks at me, goes through. The boys looks at their stuff, they go through. And then I'm walking, she's like, oh, ma'am, hold on a minute. Because she realized she had a 4th passport, but she had 3 people already go through. So it totally could, and then she opened it and he was standing right. She's like, oh, yeah, go ahead, go through. And now that the boys are old enough to pick it up, it is hilarious. They're like, oh, Mom, Dad got separated again. I'm like, yep, that's how that works. And it happens all the time.
This podcast is focused on Black voice on the West Coast. My name is Parker Johnson. To my left, I've got
Dr. G. Hi, everyone.
To my right, I've got
Hi, it's Pamphinette. Nice to see you again.
Today, we're going to be talking about traveling while Black.
Hey.
So, we're all wearing different things. You're looking very cozy.
Thank you, because that's how I travel.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's how you travel. I respect it. I've got a little statement on. I like to bring that with me to the airports that I go.
That sometimes, yes.
I'm definitely not wearing what I typically wear.
I was gonna ask.
Usually, I'm head to toe in Rugby Canada macaron, and I was like, I'm not doing that on my off day.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, you may.
Are you one of the people that walk around with the neck pillow inflated?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No offense to those of you
who
do walk around with that,
my teammates, all for it. I have another teammate. She has like the whole like a leopard print like mask. Like she's cozy. Like she's doing the whole.
Like you wear the mask.
Yeah.
Like what you walk in.
I mean, she has it on the top, you know, like this, and she's like, I'm traveling. Don't talk to me. She's one of those. For me though, I'm pretty subtle. I like. Head to toe, usually the nails, lashes are done, maybe a bit of makeup. Some light.
So for me, I'm in like a sweatpant pajama type of top, very loose fitting. The pants have got to be loose fitting. Mm-hmm. I don't like, especially if I'm traveling long. The key is the shoes. So I have these kind of blue shoes on, but if I'm traveling someplace warm.
I didn't know you did that.
I bring my sandals and I carry a pair of socks. So when you have to take your shoes off, your feet aren't all grungy on that thing. Yeah. And then if I'm traveling very long, like a long flight, 4, 5, 6 hours, the shoes have to go off and I pull out, oh yes I do. I pull out my bed slippers. And these are so comfortable. I'm going to actually transition like.
Wow.
You want to throw them on right now?
I am, just like that. And the key is to make sure the pedicure's done right.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
So
it's a must-have.
yeah, there you go. And all right, now I'm settled.
Now
that feels good. And then I always have a clip for my hair if I need to pull it back.
Wow.
Got the gum.
That's an experience.
For the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
it depends.
Incredible.
Yes,
that's
it's
good.
so comfortable though.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
I feel for the people that if you're throwing a suit on and you're gonna sit in economy or whatever, like you got the dress pants on and all of that. We got a 5-hour flight. I know you're not comfortable.
My dad is that guy.
Yeah, I respect it though.
So, Congolese people. I'm just speaking about my parents, but also our culture. We come with it. Like there's like you come like you know what I mean. Like you go to a Congolese party, wedding, anything. Everybody's dressed to the nines. Like it's just so. My dad, I remember, they surprised me when they visited here in Victoria, and my dad typically is always wearing a suit. And I remember he showed up. It's like hot outside. Like it's sweating. He's like in a suit. My mom's in a dress. I'm like. Guys, this is a gym. What's going on? Like, but that's the type of person that I remember. First time he ever saw me play, like with the Maple Leaf, and it was in San Francisco, and it's a rugby game, mind you. It's like a rugby game. My dad is head to toe like in a suit. And I was like, Dad, like, this is not what people wear. He's like, you know what people think? So he went in his first experience, and people thought he was like someone important. And they like, oh, sorry, sir, brought him in like a space, and he just took it. He's like, okay. I was like, he's like, it works.
That's a powerful
So I mean, you could finesse certain situations.
I think one of the things when traveling, my boys, they don't wear jeans. All about the sweatpants. But if I have someplace I have to be, like where I have to look nice, I carry that clothing with me. Because you have to get your luggage or you have to pass a bathroom. So after the long flight, go to the washroom, fresh, clean, don't have to worry about sweating, that whole thing when it gets hot in the plane, and you're good to go. So that's my travel tip.
I keep the moisturizer close because you know that little
the air.
The little air. I look like SpongeBob out of water. Like I'm like ashy immediately. You know what I'm? No, you know what it is.
I get it.
You know what it is. You might take a nap. You wake up. You're like, oh my goodness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's real.
Any exposed skin.
Yeah.
Any exposed skin. So yeah, I feel that. All right, now that we got the clothing down.
Yeah, we got the clothing. Wow.
Yeah.
We're not vain.
That was a lot.
I know. But it's interesting though with like talking about like what we wear, like most of the time when I'm wearing, it's like I'm with my team, right? So I'm automatically, I show up to the airport, I'm in uniform, right? So immediately when I come, like I'm with my team, people are like, oh, where are you guys going?
Yeah.
Right, so like a lot of the time when I'm not in uniform, I don't know why I always like want to put on heels and I want to be someone completely different because I am in sweats and I'm also immediately, people are like, where are you guys going? Where are you guys competing? So even the level of visibility, I'm not necessarily afforded that. Like I can't just like show up because people are like, oh, where are you guys gonna go play next? Oh, good luck, like right away. From like you walk on and they're talking about like, oh, we have Team Canada on the plane. Like so there's no level of, you can't hide.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I sometimes wear certain clothing because I know people will see it.
Yeah.
So it could be my favorite Rosa Parks that says "Nah" on it, or this time when I was traveling, Mars, Mothers Against Racism, and then I also think about sometimes the books that I'm carrying. So it could be like Nice Racism, and I'll be reading it out like that, or there's a book called The Double G, but it's actually spelled out by Randall Kennedy.
Double G.
Yeah. The N-word spelled out.
Oh, wow.
That's a fun one to sit in the airport and be like, that. And yes, I've done that.
I love it.
Other things, so it's interesting sometimes, and the reverse happens too, where sometimes I won't necessarily do something like that, depending on where I'm at, because I'm Black, like how I be perceived. So I think about, it's not weird to think about your clothing, what you're riding when you're traveling, and depending on where you're traveling.
Where you're going. Hey, you want to take a trip to wherever? And my first Google is, what's the population like?
Truth.
Truth.
Because that's going to dictate
Is
how
it
I'm
safe?
showing up.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Where are we driving through?
Absolutely.
There's little things that happen that my spidey senses can go up a little bit depending on where we're at. So it's a whole other thing.
When I was your all's age and I would travel cross country, I remember traveling cross country with a friend.
This was in the States, right?
This was in the States. We literally had, when we were going from east basically to west, there were certain states we traveled to, we had a deadline. Like we're in a hotel by say 7 o'clock at night, right? Parents knew exactly where we were, check in. To this day, I still do that. When I think it's partially also my parents and my upbringing, like you can't just, Lisa, where you going? Why have you been called? Where you at? That I need to let people know that I am traveling or I am somewhere in case something happens. But I'm very much like that. If it's a different country, a city I don't know anything about, and I've heard certain things, I absolutely, we're safe. Where are people like me around? And that's very real.
Oh yeah, I got to think about it, and also like food wise as well. Like, it's tough.
Yeah.
You know this. You're around a lot. Like you hop around. So the food part is also key.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not like that picky with like food and
No,
things.
that's like- that's
Yeah,
not-
but
that's not
also
true.
like I think
not true.
again. Anyways, I think typically though, like when I am traveling, again, like it's a very curated experience, right? So when we travel, we have, you know, depending on what country, we might have our liaison already picking us up.
Right.
We have someone, if it's a different country where they don't speak English, we have our translator. We have our like, so it's really interesting sometimes. In people are like, oh, you've been to this country. I think before, honestly, 2020, I was like, yeah, I've been there. I love the food here. I love the experience. But I think I kind of had rose-colored glasses of how, you know, it's a lot of privilege, right?
Yeah.
Like we're in, you know, specific hotels. You know, I see the field to and from. Like sometimes we have escorts bringing us to places, and it's cool. But I think after 2020 and a lot of the things that we were learning about just, you know, the various, you know, racialized communities is, you know, taking the time to ask the bus driver, how are you doing? You know, I remember in certain countries where I've been to is like, oh, I haven't been back to my family for 2 years, but I'm driving you guys to make money to go back home, or people working at the hotels and things like that. So I definitely think I am appreciative of the opportunities to travel, but I think, and also I make a concerted effort to acknowledge my privilege and also, you know, check in, because there's a reason why I'm also able to do these things, you know?
I think traveling, because when I traveled, this is how old I am, you had the option of smoking and non-smoking on a plane.
Whoa.
Okay, so and what you would never want is to be the last row of the non-smoking next. I don't know what people like. The smokers go, oh, reverse. This is non-smoking. We're gonna go that way. You know, it never worked that way. And we also, but I miss the food. I actually miss the food on the plane. We had food meals then. But I remember when I first traveled by myself, I must have been about 7, you know, and you have the little flight attendant that helps you and you get your things. But it was very much an interesting experience to travel like to Jamaica, a black country, primarily black country, and have this certain feel that you get as soon as you get there. Big bags of luggage back in the day before they charge you all that money, because we're always bringing things to and fro.
Yeah.
And just this whole kind of experience where now traveling has been, I don't know, it's very kind of different with like meals now if you can pay for it,
Yeah.
you know, drinks if you can pay. They may throw you a nut. I'm traveling for 3 hours. I just paid, do you know what I'm saying? Like what the hell? It's such a different type of experience that I don't even quite get it. And then because my family's biracial, my husband is always separated from us. It happens every single time we travel, at least 2 or 3 times we travel. So the boys are with me. They're like, come, passport 3, go through. But it's like, sir, no, it's like, no, he's like, I'm with them. This last trip, I just came back yesterday. I handed her 4 passports, 4 things. So she looks at this, looks at me, goes through. The boys looks at their stuff, they go through, and then I'm walking, she's like, oh, ma'am, hold on a minute, because she realized she had a 4th passport, but she had 3 people already go through, so it totally could, and then she opened it, and he was standing right beside, she's like, oh, yeah, go ahead, go through. And now that the boys are old enough to pick it up, it is hilarious. They're like, oh, Mom, Dad got separated again. I'm like, yep, that's how that works. And it happens all the time. I see you laughing.
It's so funny. Like I talk about going through customs with my friends all the time. My friends are from different places in the world. I got friends with last names, you know, long cultural names or whatever. And I have one friend, he says, without fail, he'll get searched. And so now he just shows up and just puts his hand up. When he passes the little terminal where they're checking bags, he'll make eye contact and be like, let's just get this over with.
Wow.
I like specifically going to the States because I have a Canadian passport, but the birthplace is Savannah, Georgia.
Right.
And if I get a racialized customs agent or whatever, they do a double take. I'm like, are you coming back or no? Like,
Are you coming?
Yeah.
I've had full conversations, like hold
Yeah,
up the
that's
line. And if it's a black customs agent, that's even better. He'll be like, hey, welcome home.
I get a welcome home every time.
Wow.
Every time I come
You
back,
know?
welcome home. Yep.
Yeah. It's so fascinating because I don't know if I could ever work in that environment because there's just so many different walks of life.
Yeah.
But I feel like prejudice, like it's just, you can feel it in the walls sometimes depending on where you're at. But they'll just look at you and they're like, what are you up to?
That's so interesting. Like I find, again, like as I was saying, like usually when I'm at the airport, I'm head to toe in kit.
Right.
And I remember this one time, I was actually with my team, and they lost our luggage. And there was a few of us that they had lost our luggages, and there was a couple that was in front of us, and they were of color, and the way that the teller, the person in front, was treating them was so...
Like the agent?
The agent, yeah, was like so disrespectful to them. They didn't speak that much English. Mind you, it's an airport, so like people are coming from all walks of life and just so disrespectful. And I felt like I was getting so angry. And typically, if I wasn't head to toe in uniform, I'd be like, "Hey, yo, like let's like, you know, like why are you talking to them like this? Like why?" I remember they had actually called the police on this person because they're like, "I don't know what you're saying," and they're like, visibly like, "Hey, like I'm gonna miss my flight. Like, can you like?" And they're like, "Oh, sir, you're getting too much." And it was so interesting that the thing that was kind of almost tone policing me was my uniform. Because, you know, like I can't be out here head to toe in kit wilding out, like, you know, cussing or whatever, because I'm representing something, right? And so just even in those things of whether it's the uniform that is the thing that, and I think also like while traveling, it's interesting when I'm in a different country. I remember I was once in South Africa. I was head to toe in kit. I was treated a certain way. Obviously, I'm dark skinned, and I remember this one day we had a day off, and I'm not in kit, and I was followed, and people were just. It was an experience I don't typically experience all that frequently, at least not that loudly. It wasn't until I spoke, and they're like, "Oh, where are you from?" It was all of a sudden, "Oh, welcome," and I was like, just the intersections of privilege. From the exterior, literal uniform, to how you sound, to age, to so many things that play into how you are valorized in society.
It's so true that when you said that, it reminded me when I was in Beirut, and it was similar where nobody thought I was from the U.S. Partly, it definitely how I look. And people thought I was either like an actor or actress or something like that, or a cleaner. Because of the way that the culture was set up, those were the kind of people who looked like me who were there. And I was visiting a friend, and they had guests come in, and she started speaking to him in Arabic, saying, "Why do you have this, you know, like person sitting here? Like, do you know?" And I remember him clearly saying, "Oh, you mean Dr. So-and-so?" Like he just went, and then it just kind of changed the whole conversation. And I find that that's really interesting when I'm traveling, is if people ask what you do or what's going on, and I'm very careful what I say and who I say it to, but the way that you speak, exactly like you've said, how you are sized up in how you're carrying yourself. My boys wear a lot of, you know, kind of athletic gear when they travel. So sometimes if it has like a sporting thing on, "Oh yeah, of course you're a volleyball player." People start full-on conversations about volleyball, basketball, look how tall you are, and all this other stuff that happens. But it is something that I'm quite aware of and use it to my, I think, advantage. That's the privilege when I feel like it's necessary.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Like if I begin to feel like somebody's gonna treat me a certain way, like they've made a certain, and I'll sometimes pull out certain things like, "Oh yes, I'm Dr." You know, like I'll pull something
too,
out,
you know?
and it is.
Safety.
It changes the tone of what's going on. Or if I see a situation, it's like, maybe I could be of help. I will attempt to do that, which I've done in the past, and say, and explain who I am to kind of alter that. But it's one of those things where I often wonder, do other people think about all this stuff? Do you know what I mean? Or do they just throw stuff on and just go about the day and,
I think a lot of people do that, but I think there's a lot more of people that think of these things and experience these things, because these examples are light in comparison to what some people have to deal with.
Without question.
Like some of the stories, it just sounds like a movie.
Yeah.
And it's ruthless.
And you have to be smart because the power is no joke.
Right.
That's the thing. My youngest son, the last time we were traveling last week, he got pulled over every time, and he got wadded down, and it was all in this lower body area.
Really?
And we're like, what the heck is going on? And we don't know what it was, but every place we went, they ended up pulling him aside and having to privately do whatever they needed to do. And it didn't happen I don't know, something in the undergarments he was wearing, I'm not sure. I've just never seen anything like that. And he's just like, yeah, Mom, this guy, that was just kind of weird. I'm like, yeah, that is kind of odd. I'd never seen that happen before. Wow. So but teaching them how to travel smartly.
Yes.
And never forgetting who they are is absolutely.
I on my most recent trip, I'm cozy, and I got the do-rag on, and I'm going through the scanner or whatever. Like, okay, we'll come through, and I've got like, jewels in my hair, or whatever. I've got metal in my hair, and I'm like, I can't take this off. Yeah, that's fine. And the agent was like, "Can you take your toque off?" And I was like,
not the toque.
I was like,
not the toque.
I was like, you know what? We got time today. I was like,
You
do-rag.
decided to educate
Yeah,
today?
do-rag.
Okay.
And they couldn't say it, so they kept trying to say it. And I was like, no, we can do this. Do-rag. And they just kept, it was like a 60-second interaction.
Wow.
And they were getting flustered. And I was like, do-rag. And they just didn't know what to do. And I was like, don't worry about it. But you learned something new today. And I went and grabbed my stuff. But it's like the little things, right? You just gotta have fun with it sometimes.
And that's something they could help with, though. So,
multiculturalism.
Have pictures of various head garments. Do a little,
maybe,
right?
Just
do-rag.
yeah.
Just,
Toque, that's wild.
Take your toque off.
Take your toque off is wild. That's a lot.
I was like, me?
Today.
That is a lot.
Yeah, okay, we're gonna do this today.
That's so interesting. And I don't know, in moments like this and like the ways that I travel, then I think about like, my dad, as I was saying, like head to toe in a suit. But I'm also thinking like, if he's not in that, how are they perceiving him, right? And I'm also thinking like when they first came to Canada, like there's so many thoughts I have. Again, I'm just so like privileged of the opportunities that I do, and like their why they've come to Canada. Like I can be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go play for whatever, and I'm gonna go represent this. Where it's like, like you get to the security person, I'm looking for life. Like I'm looking to start and to create life and to like the whys for traveling are so different. And I think in those things it's always interesting. So yeah.
Well, I'm hoping that what I'd love to do is give people the opportunity to travel if we could. Like it blows me away when I think about, certain kids that have never seen the ocean. When when I'm passing it every day. Go.
The access is unbelievable here.
Oh.
It is hands down one of the most beautiful places.
Yeah, without question.
I had a friend visit me. I must have been 7. He was 9, I think. We go down to the beach, and it's a summer day. We jump in the ocean. Have I told y'all this one?
No.
Jump in the ocean. My guy comes up sputtering. It's salty. What's going on? I was like,
Never been in the ocean.
never been in the ocean.
Yeah.
My guy was from Vancouver, so that was very confusing.
Okay.
But still,
Yeah.
I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
this is a privilege.
You know what it is though too is the ocean here is cold.
Yeah.
So you could be looking at it all your life. That's what I do. I've been here for like 11, 12 years. I haven't put my foot in there.
Yeah.
I'm just like, especially when you come from warm water
Yeah.
and you're talking about having to put on a wetsuit. I'm
Yeah.
like, a wet? That's heavy.
I'm dead.
I'm not trying. I can't go back. I can't. If I grew up here, I could.
We'll do a cold dip. We'll do a fam cold dip. You do the cold dips. Don't do that.
If I'm looking for healing, that was last episode. It's a healing.
We're going to get out of here. We're going to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Do you all have any other thoughts that you want to share before we wrap up today around Traveling While Black?
Yeah, I think it's always cool to be able to see the world and travel and things like that. And also, like, while traveling, it's important to remember, you know, to think about those around you and to see those, regardless of whatever, you know, intersection or privilege point that you have, is hi, hello, acknowledging someone's presence is a huge thing, wherever you go.
Wherever you go, give that nod.
Give the nod.
Yes.
If you see another one of us, give the nod
Give the
too.
nod.
Please, whether you're on a train, plane, automobile.
For real. And trust your intuition.
Yeah.
If something feels off, listen to that and look out for your friends if you're traveling with them too. What about you?
I wanted to say, when we think about traveling, it is really a privilege. And so if you have the ability to help somebody, you know, achieve that in some way, please do. It's such a beautiful thing to be able to give a gift of travel, to be able to travel, whether it's by car or ferry or by plane. So we'd love to hear some of your travel stories, any tips that you may have, like comfy shoes. And until we come traveling to your city, which we hope we'll get to do at some point, from our family right now to yours, always travel safely. We'll see you next time. Thanks.